Hi everybody, Bob with Knives Town here. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of Spyderco knives. Both of these are knives from their Salt series. These are knives that are designed to be able to use in harsh, corrosive conditions without rusting, specifically salt water. We've got the Ladybug here, and we also have the Spyderco Pacific. So let's take a look at this. Spyderco, as you know, is an excellent maker of knives. This particular one here comes in bubble wrap for protection and has a very bright handle on it, which of course is good for locating the knife. The yellow is, if it gets dropped in shallow water, you can see it down there at the bottom, or if it's raining or that kind of thing. The yellow makes it just very visible. So if you drop it, you can see it easily. That helps out there. This particular knife is patterned largely after the Endura knife, so you may see the resemblance there. This particular model I'm looking at is a fully serrated edge, the spider edge on there, but it is available in plain edge if you want that. Now, the technical specs on this knife, this blade is 3.8 inches long, and it is made with the H1 steel. It's 3 millimeters thick. It has an FRN handle, fiberglass reinforced nylon. The Rockwell is 57 to 58. The weight is 2.9 ounces, and the overall length is 8.6 inches. Now, just a word about the H1 steel. This, as you know, even stainless steel will rust. Carbon steel, of course, will rust very easily. You really have to keep after that. Make sure you don't put it away wet. Humid environments it doesn't like. Keep a little coating of oil on it, that sort of thing. It's a great steel because it's so hard. You can put a really good keen edge on it, and they make some great knives with carbon steel. The stainless steel is the carbon steel with chromium added to it, and that does mitigate the rust. It does keep rust at bay, although it's not totally 100% impervious to rust. Stainless steel will still pit and spot and can rust to some extent, especially if used in conditions like salt water. Now, so what they did was they came up with the H1 steel, and rather than hardening the steel with carbon, there's actually just very minute amounts of carbon in the steel. What they used was nitrogen to harden the blade. So you do get a Rockwell hardness of 57 to 58, which is right up there with the best of them. And they use chromium in the percentages of 14 to 16%, which is very high. And the result is you get an H1 steel, which will not rust. It is not going to pit or rust in any amount. And this is made by the Miyota foundry, so they're the ones that came up with this. Benchmade introduced this steel back in, I think, 2003. Spyderco is using it here on their Salt lines, which is, these knives are intended for someone who is, I would say, obviously working in corrosive environments, and particularly salt water. Coast Guard, Merchant Marine, Navy, maybe any kind of deep sea fishing. It could be I suppose it could be used as a diving knife, a folding diving knife, these types of things. The blade will not rust at all. You can put it away wet with salt water, it's not going to rust. And not only is the blade made of this steel, but all of the internals as well. The lock back, the spring in there, it's all made from that H1 steel. So you've got a knife here that is absolutely a seafaring knife. The clip is made from titanium, so it's impervious to rust as well. And then the only other element you have in this knife is the handle, which is FRN. It's made with a checkering pattern here, which is good for grip. We'll take a close-up on that. You can see that. It's got a lanyard hole there, which I would recommend putting a lanyard in there so that you don't drop it. That's the one thing you certainly don't want to do, especially on the water, because it'll go to the bottom and it won't be retrievable. It is a lockback knife, and it does have the little detent there. Now this is a fully serrated edge. You don't see many of them, but it's appropriate though for this type of a knife, for this use. If you're cutting rope, cutting those heavy fibrous types of materials, then a fully serrated blade that's probably what I would pick. But it is available in plain edge too, if that's what you prefer. The Spyder hole here is a little bit enlarged, a little bit larger than normal, so that it can be used with gloved hands, wet, cold hands. When your hands get cold, it's hard to move them and hard to do fine work with them. So the hole has been made a little bit larger there for that. It does have the standard jimping here on the ramp, on the thumb ramp, just like you would expect. There is a little portion of straight edge here at the tip. If you need to sort of do a little slitting, puncture something to get it started, and then use the serrations for the ripping. And that is just screaming sharp. It's a very sharp edge. Hollow ground. That's a great knife, that certainly is a great knife for anybody who is going to be working in those kind of environments and needs a steel like this. It's a great steel, great cutting steel, and it gives you that added bonus of no rust. So, this in theory would be a lifetime knife. Opens easily. And nice and light, 2.9 ounces. That's great for a carrying using knife. This also, another member of this Salt series is the Ladybug, which is really the same knife except in a smaller version. So we'll take a look at that too. That is one of Spyderco's Salt line. Comes in bubble wrap also. And really, what we've got here is, like I say, the same knife, except in a much smaller package. It is made with the same H1 steel, and it does share all of the same characteristics of the larger Pacific knife. It's really just a much smaller version of it. It is also a lockback. Now the specs on this one, that blade is 1.9 inches. It does have the H1 steel, like I said. It's 2 millimeters thick. Does have the FRN handle and the 57 to 58 Rockwell hardness on the blade. The weight of this is a ½ ounce. So this is like a keychain knife if you want it to be. The overall length is 4.3 inches. And I don't know if I said that on the Pacific. The length overall open on the Pacific is 8.6 inches. This one does not have a clip, although it does have a lanyard hole. And it does share really all the same characteristics of its larger big brother. Yep. There they are together. The ergonomics on this are really good. It's rounded on the edges. It does have a finger groove there. The grip is very good. It's not coming out of your hand. There's a lot of blade there for a lot of good use. It's just a good idea from Spyderco. That's the Pacific and the Ladybug. Excellent choice, especially for those working in the sea. All right, well, thanks for watching. I'll see you again.